Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Crypto Tips. My name is Heidi, and today we're going to talk about how to spot a rug pull or a potential rug pull in the DeFi platforms that you might be using. These are the red flags that you need to pay attention to. I encourage you to watch this video more times if you need to. Check out these websites I'm referencing down below so then you can be a very educated and intuitive investor in this cryptocurrency space. You can avoid losses by learning stuff like this. So let's get into it. We're going to kick this one off with a definition of a rug pull. Pretty appropriate. So basically a rug pull is when the founders or the developers of a decentralized platform or of a smart contract act maliciously in a way to steal all your money, and they abandon the project and they cut and run. Basically, that's a rug pull. They can do this in many different ways. They can use, let's say if they have a large amount of the supply of coins, they can use those big holdings to drain the liquidity pools, take off with profit, and again, cut and run while you're left with a really valueless coin. Additionally, they can use their centralized powers by instantly creating a lot, like millions and millions more coins, taking those, dumping it on the public markets, and again, you are left holding a heavily inflated, worthless coin. Or they have the ability, if it's a smart contract coded in the way that allows for this, they can have the ability to just go ahead and straight up and steal or funnel coins that are being sent to their smart contract. Just take those, literally just stake those and leave and run. So there's a lot of different ways that they can take your money, and you should be aware of all of them. So now let's get into a couple different resources that I know of and use to help protect me and my investments in the DeFi space when I use them. So the first one is rugdoc.io. Again, a link for that will be down below in the video description. This one has a good reminder that just because a platform has poorly written code doesn't mean that the coin can't still appreciate in price. It also doesn't mean that you know, a project or smart contract or coin that is well written, it can't depreciate in price. This isn't investment advice. This isn't necessarily an indication of the success or the price fluctuations of a cryptocurrency itself. What RugDoc looks for specifically is they have coders on hand that can analyze the Solidity code used in Ethereum-based projects or other projects as well. They look for the bugs or for the holes in the code that would allow for these developers to steal coins. Again, it's not an indication of the longevity of that coin or platform. It's just like, you know, what options do these guys have to act maliciously? What did they code that would allow for them to, you know, cut and run and steal a lot of money? So I'm going to go over these two websites, right? Rugdoc.io and also DeFiSafety.com. These are very different in that Rugdoc is kind of saying, listen, these are our professionals that have analyzed the code. These are the warnings we've seen, and this is how it's ranked. Whereas DeFiSafety.com shows you how they review these projects. I actually prefer DeFiSafety.com right now just because as a beginner to analyzing things like decentralized finance, smart contracts, just an overall project of a platform, DeFi Safety is a good reminder of what to look for and how to find that information. And additionally, they also provide ways where if these platforms are ranking quite low on DeFiSafety.com, they give you reasons how they could improve that score. So if you're newly invested in a platform and you haven't checked it yet, and then you go to DeFiSafety.com and it's pretty low, number one, check and see how recent their review was of that platform, and also check and see their tips for how that platform could improve its score. And then again, if you're invested in that platform, you can keep an eye on it and see if those upgrades are ever on the books, if they're ever interested in actually making those upgrades. If not, that's a huge red flag in itself. Also, just a quick little, you know, hint for DeFiSafety.com is it's not always 100% updated. Some of these are a little bit dated of, you know, their reviews of these projects. So keep that in mind also. If you see one that maybe has a really high score that's surprising you, or one that has a really low score that's surprising you, just make a check and see what was the date of the actual review of that platform. So there is a commonality be between rugdoc.io and defisafety.com, and that is that they're both looking for the founders or developers to have publicly identified themselves, gone through the KYC process in a very solid way. Just because, you know, obviously there's a rationale there that it's harder to get away with something if you publicly identified to that project and it ends up being a scam. It's pretty easy to take some legal action against you. Now, here's why I'm not completely sold on this personally, just because number one, there's lots of people who have been publicly identified that have scammed people. But number two, also just because, again, coming from this place of wanting to preserve your privacy and protect it, especially regarding your activities within the cryptocurrency space, I understand why someone would want to stay anonymous, particularly if you're developing something very disruptive that could be, you know, upsetting some powers that be, what have you. But also, just additionally, in the effort of creating as decentralized of a platform as possible without having one single authority figure in that platform is a good step in the right direction in, you know, for decentralization at least. So that's why, you know, having anonymous founders and stuff isn't necessarily a huge red flag for me. Obviously, it's an easy hurdle for a lot of people to use to gain trust by putting their face and name and everything out there. It can go either way, basically. Another thing that you need to pay attention to are things called audits, where, you know, there's all these platforms, they're dealing with code, right, that needs to be updated, and each time they update their code, a new audit needs to be put in place. So you'd be surprised which ones actually have not been audited or have not made that audit publicly available, maybe because it didn't rear very good results. Either way, the lack of documentation of audits is a red flag for a platform. It means that either maliciously or non-maliciously, the smart contract could be manipulated to drain funds from that smart contract, and if you're using it, that can mean your funds. Another good indication for these platforms to have, you know, in regards to finding these bugs and having these audits, is a bug bounty program. Do they have enough money? Are they investing in the health of their platform? Are they reinvesting their profits into keeping this platform and code as secure as possible by running what are called bug bounty programs? This is when they allow for anyone who has the ability to analyze their code, identify bugs, and present it to them in a responsible manner where they can then fix it. And, you know, if they find something and it's legitimate, they get rewarded by payment. Some of these can be in the millions of dollars. So basically, they'd rather pay people who are acting with good intent to actually help their platform, rather than losing that money otherwise through things like a hack. Bug bounty programs are great to have, and additionally, look at how much money they're willing to invest in that bug bounty program, because that's basically an indication of how much they're willing to invest in the security of their protocol. A huge red flag for me, these next two are huge red flags, is there centralized control over the smart contract or over the protocol itself? Is there a thing called a multi-sig wallet, or is there multi-sig functionality for changing the code of the smart contract? Is it just one guy out there that can literally do whatever he wants and there's no need of like a community effort to keep him in check? That's a huge red flag. Also, if there is a multi-sig functionality, how big is it? Is it like you just need 2 out of 3 to sign to make a confirmation, because those 2 guys could easily be colluding? Is it like 3 out of 5 that need to come together to sign to make changes to the code? Those things are definitely big indicators to pay attention to. The next one here are things called time locks. Is there a time lock from when changes in the code are proposed to when they're actually put into action? Do they give basically the users of that platform or the holders of that coin the ability to react or to prepare for the upcoming changes? Or are they just trying to like sneak a quick one past them and, again, do a rug pull? So time locks and multi-sig functionality are 2 really big indicators that you need to take very seriously. If you're, especially, you know, if you're holding a coin of DeFi or something, that's one thing. But if you're actively participating in the smart contract, if you're actively providing liquidity on these platforms or farming these coins, you are much more directly affected by the security of these smart contracts, by the authenticity and, you know, malicious behavior or lack thereof, hopefully, of these developers and founders. Another huge red flag that is probably much more common than not is the developers have a huge supply of that coin. It's pretty common just because obviously they're the first ones interacting with the coins, they're the first ones using it, so they're going to be accessing a lot of supply. A lot of people tend to do this. It's not the best case scenario by far, but developers and founders who have these huge supplies of these coins, like I mentioned at the very start of this video, they could use that really big bag to drain liquidity pools and affect the price of the coin that you're holding, the counter coin of that liquidity, basically dumping the coin on the market, taking their profits off, and you're left holding nothing, basically a worthless coin. And similarly to a time lock functionality with changes in the code, do these developers or founders, if they have a big bag, is there a lockup period for that? Is there any kind of a security measurement that keeps them from being able to dump massive amounts of that coin on the market? So those are the warnings, right? Hopefully this is forming you into a more educated and intuitive investor and participant in this cryptocurrency space, because that's what I would love to help contribute to this cryptocurrency space, is self-regulation in the form of educated investors and participants. That's going to be you one day if you're new. Hopefully it won't take as long as, you know, before, but hopefully sooner rather than later, basically. So here are the top, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Top 6 DeFi platforms listed in terms of their security audits and just overall rankings of security on DeFiSafety.com. We have Balancer V2, which is 100% safe. Again, I'm sure this is no guarantee, but in terms of all of their checklists, this one ranks very high. They check all the boxes. Next up, we have Compound, which is ranked at 97% safe. M-Stable is at 97% safe as well. Bancor is at 96%, Uniswap V3 is at 94%, and Aave V2 is at 91%. So if you want to take a look at DeFi platforms, those are pretty solid platforms and protocols to interact with. Basically, not very much risk of a rug pull or funny business happening from the development team there. They're more focused on the long-term effects of action and profitability of actually providing a good project and product for people to use, rather than, you know, a quick hello goodbye with a scam project where they're just trying to make some quick bucks. These platforms that I just listed are far more likely to continue to contribute to the crypto space and help you too make some money by farming and using DeFi liquidity pools and whatnot. So